When it comes to working on overhead mobility or shoulder flexion mobility, there are two very basic things you need to consider. Okay, we're going to make this video very simple. We're not going to overcomplicate the shoulder, but from a very, very basic standpoint, a common sense standpoint, there are two things you need to consider. One, what's the stuff on the front side of your shoulder look like, or what's it able to do? Is it able to lengthen under control to allow you to get overhead fully? Because of the stuff on the front side of your shoulder, your lat and all of the tissues in the armpit are tight, they are going to limit your ability to get overhead. If that's the case, then you need a strategy to work on lengthening those tissues and work on allowing them to lengthen under movement so you can then fully achieve full shoulder flexion or full overhead mobility. Scenario number two is maybe the stuff on the front side of that armpit, the lat and all of that stuff, isn't really overly tight, and maybe it can allow you to get overhead fully. Maybe you just need to work on the opposite side of the joint. Maybe you need to work on those muscles back there to work on some strength and control to be able to fully get you into that position. So the only way you're gonna know which one you need to work on is to actually get your shoulder assessed. But let's imagine that you're in scenario number two. You don't have a tight lat, you don't have tight musculature on the front side of the armpit, and you just need to work on strengthening the back side of your shoulder to work on your end range control or your end range strength of overhead mobility or shoulder flexion. So let's go down to the ground and we'll work on an exercise to work on that strength and control. We love this position on the ground because it puts us into a lumbar blocked or a lumbar locked position, because if we try to work on that shoulder flexion, a lot of times we will dump into low back or mid back extension. Now, while you might think that this gets you overhead more, because it does, that's not really working on improving shoulder flexion mobility. That's just you working on compensating and using that low or the mid back to get that shoulder flexion. So on the ground in this lumbar blocked position and child's pose, we put our back into a position where we can't really utilize it to compensate. So we're kind of in this child's pose position. Butts in the heels, we're gonna bring our chest down to our thighs. Elbows are gonna be in close to our knees. And then the arm that you're gonna work on, you're just gonna shoot it straight out overhead. Take your head down to your opposite hand. Just relax that head or your forehead down to the ground. From here, we're gonna lock out the elbow and we're gonna try to lift our hand off of the ground into shoulder flexion. It's gonna look just like this. Lift, hold, and parachute it down. As you can see, when I lift my hand up, I'm not shooting my body forwards, or I'm not compensating through my back. That's the goal, right? Keep your butt glued down into your heels, chest glued down into your thighs. And when we lift, we're not bending our elbow, we're keeping that elbow locked out. It's coming fully through the shoulder. So if you can't even lift your hand off of the ground, this really is the indication that you need to work on that end range strength or control of shoulder flexion. So again, it's gonna look just like this. Lock the elbow out, lift, hold for the desired amount of time, slowly parachute it back down, and repeat, lift, hold for the desired amount of time, put it back down, and complete the desired amount of repetitions. And again, this will work on strengthening the posterior part of the shoulder to allow you to get full overhead range of motion.